Greetings. Today I'm sharing a few of my current favorite plant-based breakfasts. These are all going to be savory breakfast recipes. It's very rare that I crave sweet foods in the morning. I actually have a lot of trouble finding breakfast foods that I like in general. So usually once I find a few things I enjoy, I just make them over and over and over again for weeks at a time until I get burnt out on them, and then I find new foods and I repeat the process. So these are my current go-tos. First, a big thank you to Yondu for sponsoring today's video. Yondu is an all-purpose umami seasoning. It's made from vegetables and fermented soybeans, and I discovered this product a few months back. I had heard it was a great vegan-friendly substitute for fish sauce and things like homemade kimchi or Thai curries. It's a total staple in my cooking now. A splash instantly makes any dish more savory and flavorful, and I find myself adding it to all sorts of stews, soups, and stir-fries. I'm going to be using it to add an extra boost of umami to the recipes in this video, and if you're interested in trying Yondu out for yourself, you can find it on Amazon, and if you use my code SARAHYOND, you can get 10% off your order. Check the link in the description box. That'll take you straight to the product page. Please do let me know if you try it out, and let's take a look at our first breakfast recipe. My current favorite breakfast may seem a little unconventional if you live in the United States, but these are common breakfast foods in Japan, and I've always loved having miso soup for breakfast. So most traditional miso soup is made with a fish-based dashi or broth, and you can make a vegan dashi by steeping konbu, which is a type of seaweed, and dried shiitake mushrooms in water. But if you don't want to hunt down those ingredients, or you just want something super convenient and easy, you can use yondu to make a quick dashi. And this just makes the miso soup much more flavorful than using plain water or like regular vegetable broth as a base. Then you can add in a pinch of wakame seaweed. This is super nutritious, it's delicious, and it's kind of like tea leaves in that it expands a lot in water, so a little goes a long way. Then you can also add in some fresh scallions. I actually like to add a lot of these. And I also enjoy adding in a serving or two of tofu for a little extra protein. I especially like soft tofu, but you can use any kind. And then I just let that simmer for a few minutes. Finally, you're going to incorporate your miso paste. I like to use white miso paste, and this is a little hack I use to dissolve it in the broth so that you don't end up with any chunks of miso. I've been playing around with vegan Tamagoyaki. This is a Japanese rolled omelet that's savory and also a little sweet. So to start off, you'll need a vegan egg substitute, and to that we'll add a little bit of white sugar, some mirin, which is a type of cooking wine, and then a splash of yondu, which, much like in the miso soup, we are using in place of a fish-based dashi. Whisk that together. I like to add in some scallions too, and then I just do my best to cook the omelet one thin layer at a time. You don't need the special pan to do this. You can make it in a regular frying pan. I was actually doing that myself. Confession, I bought this pan specifically to film this video, and I might return it, but you're just gonna brush it with some oil before you add each layer of egg. I'm still very new to this technique, but luckily, even if it comes out a little bit ugly, it still tastes really delicious. And if you don't want to go to the trouble of making it into a rolled omelet, you can just scramble it and it'll still have that really interesting, delicious seasoning. Optionally, you can roll it in a sushi mat and let it cool slightly to give it a nicer shape. Then I just slice it into half-inch pieces, and I think the reason I love this so much is because I'm half Filipino. I grew up eating eggs with patis or fish sauce, so I really like the characteristic that the yondu gives the omelet. It makes me kind of nostalgic. It's just very savory, and I highly recommend trying it. So my second type of go-to easy savory breakfast is some kind of toast, and for the past few years I have been making my own bread every week. We all remember the no-knead bread that really had its moment back in 2020. Recently, I have actually been revisiting that recipe because sometimes I just don't, have the time and attention span to make a sourdough loaf. So I've made a few tweaks to the original no-knead recipe by Mark Bittman, and I've really been loving it. I highly recommend trying this out if you've been wanting to get into making your own bread, but the whole process just seems a little overwhelming to you. Let me know if you want to see a separate video all about my favorite easy bread recipes, but for now I'm going to focus on the toppings I've been really enjoying, starting with this super simple homemade tofu-based cream cheese. This is a great recipe because grocery prices have been rising and pre-made vegan substitutes like cream cheese can be super pricey. All you're gonna do is take a block of firm or extra firm tofu, drain it, and use your favorite method to press out the extra liquid. Then break that tofu up into a food processor and add apple cider vinegar, some fresh lemon juice, and process that. This can also be done in a high-powered blender if you have a tamper. Scrape down the sides of the food processor as needed and then add in salt and some melted coconut oil. You're gonna wanna find specifically refined coconut oil so that it has a neutral flavor and it doesn't taste overwhelmingly coconutty. And this is gonna give the cream cheese a rich texture since tofu is relatively low in fat. And it's also gonna help so that your tofu cream cheese firms up in the fridge. Continue to process until it's as smooth as you can get it. At this point, you have a delicious plain tofu cream cheese, and I'm gonna divide it so I can leave half plain and the other half I'm gonna dress up with some dried chives, some dried dill, onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, and a splash of yondu, which is optional, but it's gonna give our spread a super well-rounded savory flavor. And this is definitely going to be a key ingredient for me and all kinds of spreadable plant-based cheeses and other fun dips moving forward. Transfer the cream cheese to a clean container and pop those in the fridge to firm up. I was actually shocked at how much I liked this. If you know me, you know I usually default to cashews when it comes to creamy sauces and dips. I wanted to branch out and try tofu for a more affordable option, and I was literally scraping the food processor clean with bread. Now, along with that cream cheese, one of my favorite toppings for my toast is carrot lox. I did make this recipe a few videos back. I'm still very much in a phase of obsession with it. So just pick out a few of the fattest carrots you can get your hands on. You don't need to peel them, but do give them a good scrub and then pat them dry. Then brush them with a little bit of olive oil and wrap them up in a pouch. Usually I use parchment, but I was out, so I used aluminum foil here. You could also just roast them in a dish with a lid if you have one. The idea is just that we want to trap the steam so they stay nice and tender. After about an hour roasting at 375 degrees, let them sit on the counter till they're cool enough to handle. And then we're going to cut them on a bias so you can get nice long pieces. Transfer those to a sealable container and we're going to marinate them with a few tablespoons of olive oil. This is going to give them a nice rich mouthfeel. Some apple cider vinegar to kind of balance out the natural sweetness of the carrots. Liquid smoke, for the smoke flavor. And here again is a case where I would usually season with either salt or soy sauce, but I'm going to use yondu instead for a more well-rounded umami flavor that makes this taste even more reminiscent of lox. I like to let this marinate for at least a few hours or overnight, and when it comes time to assemble my breakfast, I like to toast up a thick slice of my homemade bread, spread on a thick layer of my homemade cream cheese, then layer on my carrot lox, and I top it with either red onion or scallions and some fresh cracked black pepper, little squeeze of lemon juice, and it's just really delicious. Obviously the carrot doesn't taste like, real smoked salmon, but it's savory, it's smoky, I love the texture, and I think it's just delicious in its own right, and you should definitely try it. Another breakfast staple on my homemade bread lately has been my classic chickpea salad. I have made this so many times on the channel, but it's just got chickpeas. I actually cooked these from dry in my Instant Pot so I could get them a little softer than the canned ones, and I like it better this way. Just pop those into a bowl and mash them up. Then add in diced celery and onion. Some vegan mayonnaise. I was at the bottom of a jar, so I replaced the balance with some plain vegan yogurt, and it actually tasted great. Juice of 1 lemon. Some Dijon mustard, and typically I just season this with salt, but this time I'm adding, you guessed it, a little dash of yondu. I use yondu all the time as a plant-based replacement for fish sauce in, stir fries and Thai curries, so that led me to think, why not try adding this to my chickpea salad, since I kind of make this as a tuna salad replacement. It doesn't necessarily make it taste fishy, but it does add a ton of flavor. It makes it extra savory and satisfying. And again, I just toast up a thick slice of my homemade bread, pile on a ton of the chickpea salad, and that's breakfast. So those are my current favorite breakfasts. Please do let me know if you try any of them out, and a big thank you once again to Yondu for sponsoring today's video. Remember, you can order Yondu for 10% off on Amazon using my code SarahYond, link down in the description box. Remember to subscribe for more plant-based recipe inspiration, and I will see you very soon.